I feel like I just did the spring version of this, but here we go. This is my summer to read list. This has a lot more than my spring list. I was like, you know what? I read so many books in the spring. Let's be ambitious. Here's what I wanted to do. I needed more Christian books. I feel like the last list had like 1, maybe 2. I also have a lot of series that I've not finished. All of these are summer themes. Now, some of these books I've wanted to read for a long time. Some of them I had started the series and it's been a few years and I just need to get through them. My number 1 book that I want to read this summer is Gidget. I love the old Sandra Dee movie from the 60s. I wanted to be Gidget. I wanted to learn how to surf. I felt I could relate to her. I was the skinny, underdeveloped girl in my youth and I didn't know there was a book. This is like amazing to me. Gidget is this girl that she grew up in the 50s and she saw these people surfing. She really was inspired to want to do that, but it was a time when women did not surf really and they were looked down upon. But she said, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. And it sparked a lot of women starting to surf. So Gidget is her surf name, but she also met a love while she was surfing. So I don't know what it's going to be like, but we'll see. A Cyclist's Guide to Villains and Vines. This book comes out the end of May. So this video is actually recorded early May because I'm prepping here because it's going to be hot. I'm going to go swimming and to me it's going to be a summery feeling, but it's still technically spring. So it's like an overlap of spring and summer. But this book is a second book in a series and I thought it was so cute. I mean, there is murder, so that's not cute, but it was about this woman who lived in France and she started her bike tourism company where she would take people out on rides around the countryside and so they could get an understanding of tourism in a different light. So she'll be like, oh, this building over here is blah blah blah, and then they could go stay different places on the way. And I thought it was very cute. But then along the time that she was riding, there was a murder and then she connects to this cop that's like, oh, you again? Are you connected to this murder? And she's like, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to stumble upon another body, you know. So I don't know what this series will be like for the second book, but because I loved the first book so much, I was like, yay, let's do this. So I don't even know what this one will be about, but because I loved the first book, we're gonna go into it. So I started this series years ago, the Lancaster County series. Suzanne Wood Fisher, she wrote this series. I started with the 4th book, which these are all kind of standalone books, I believe, but the 4th book was a winter book. And then the first book I read last year or 2 years ago. And so I was like, I need to really read the 2nd and 3rd books. So that's what I'm going to do this summer. The second book is called The Waiting. It's an Amish story. The main character's name is Jory and she falls in love with this guy, but he dies. I don't know how, so we're gonna find out how. But then I guess his brother comes around and I guess maybe they fall in love. I don't know. All I know is that the other books, they're very well done. I thought they were like sad, very sad, but I don't know. Maybe I need a little bit of melancholy in my summer amongst the fun. The Search is a story. It's supposed to be about an Englisher, and that just means someone that's not Amish. Someone who is Amish and they become friends or they come together. I'm not really sure. I didn't really look into it, but it's the 3rd book and I said, okay, well, 3rd book, we're going to read it. By the same author. I know this is odd that I'm going to be reading like 4 books, 5 books by the same author, but that's what I'm going to do because I just was like, yeah, these are summer vibes. So the Cape Cod Creamery books, these are like more modern. The Sweet Life is supposed to be about a woman that has an engagement that breaks. So she decides to just go on her honeymoon without him because, you know, they paid for it, and so she's gonna go on her own. Or, you know what, she's gonna take her mom with her. That's what it is. So I have no idea what else this is about, but it's been on my to-read list for a while, so look at the cover. It is summer. And the second book, The Secret of Happiness, more summery themes. I don't know what this one's about either. And Love on a Whim is the 3rd book from this series, and we're just gonna try to tackle all of this. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. We might have to go into a little bit of autumn, but we'll see what happens. I actually struggle to read books one after the other in a same series. I like to mix things up. I know that's very rare and a lot of people like to read like book after another. I haven't done that in years. I struggle. So maybe this will get me back to like being more consistent. The summer book. This is supposed to be about a young girl and her grandmother living in Finland during the summer. They like build a boat. They decide to study the nature around them, like bugs and stuff. This is a fictional story, and it just seems delightful. I didn't really have any memories that were beautiful with a grandmother, so let's live vicariously through this book. I mean, it's called The Summer Book. I have to read it for a summer book, right? The Late Bloomers Club is a book that is about two sisters. They form this club. I guess this has to do with something with the community. There's a situation that happens that divides them, and so these sisters want to bring them all together, and it has to do with like land. But hey, I like bicycles a lot. Oh man, so this book I wanted to read like 2 summers ago, so we're gonna read it this summer. Coyote Sunrise was a book that I read a few summers ago, and then they made a sequel, Coyote Lost and Found. This is a middle grade book. So Coyote's mother has passed away, and she has a box with like her ashes that she wants to place somewhere. So Coyote takes her dad and they go off on a road trip. I just love the feel of middle grade books. I thought that the first book was really cute. The first book I even gave like 4 stars, so I really enjoyed this series, and I hope that I'll continue to. And for the first book, it was about her father. They lived in a school bus and they were picking people up along their journey. So I thought that was really brilliant. This one sounds really nice too. So I want to go on the adventure with them. Against the Water. Owen Wright was in the Olympics when surfing started 2 Olympic summer games ago. And I love to watch surfing. I already talked about Gidget, but I watch pro surfing all year round when it's on. Owen Wright no longer is a professional surfer. He is retired. However, he wrote a book, and I said, well, let's read this book. And I know he's had loads of injuries along the way, like really bad ones. So I want to know what his story was like. His sister is still a pro surfer, so you could watch Tyler Wright. But Owen Wright, he is an Australian and an Olympian, and I love the Olympics. Speaking of which, Just Add Water by Katie Ledecky, another Olympian, a swimmer. She has been in several Olympics. I love watching her. I remember her first Olympic Games and cheering her on, and man, she is incredible. She is the most decorated female Olympic swimmer. So I thought, yes, we need to know this story better, because I really don't know much about her. So throughout the year, you'll see me reading books about Olympians. I had already read one back a few months ago. You know how I was talking about those fairy mystery books? Yeah. So I had one in my spring to read list. I had the first one in my top 10 spring books. Let's continue this series. Now, I don't know if I'll finish it, but we're gonna at least do the 3rd and 4th books. There is a 5th book, so we'll see if we could squeeze that in there or not. I'm gonna try. But hey, more fairy mystery books are so exciting, so I'm not gonna talk in depth about those, because if you've been to my channel, then you know I've talked about it. So A Hint of Mischief will be the one that I read first. A Flicker of Doubt will be next. And A Twinkle of Trouble is the last one. And all of these covers look very summery, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to enjoy those lovely books. 3-Act Tragedy. I love Agatha Christie, and I was reading all of her Hercule Poirot. I cannot say his last name. Anyway, the series where he is the investigator throughout these murders. And I've read so many of them now, and this will be the next one that I read. Yes. So I have not read one at all this year, and how dare I? So let's do it. The Shell Seekers. This is about a woman who had been married, had children, and now she's old and she finds her father's painting. I don't really know much about this story, but shells are very summery, and if they're looking for shells on the seashore, let's do it. Maybe she'll even sell her seashells at the seashore. I don't know, guys. The Secret Book of Flora Lee. Now, I don't know if this is Leah or Lee, because I've seen this in 2 ways, but I'm gonna think Lee like the sea, okay? Like the lee of a storm and stuff like that. This is about a book that is found by a woman, and it has stuff about her missing sister. I believe it's set in the 30s, and it's all about the war and the evacuation in England, and her sister disappears. So I guess this is a book that was kept by her sister. I have seen this book everywhere. I hear really good things about it. I have been wanting to read it since before it came out. River Sing Me Home. This is supposed to be about the Emancipation Act in England in 1834, and a bunch of people that were slaves in Barbados are now supposed to be free, but they're not allowed to go anywhere, and they're still treated like slaves. And one of them is trying to find her children. So she's doing her best to find them. It's a journey that she's taking to find her children. That must be so difficult. I can't even imagine. So something that I feel is very important to learn about and see what maybe that was like for someone trying to maybe find their family after such freedom was offered. And ultimately she wants to be free. The Sisters of Seaview. I mean, come on, it's about a sea. This is supposed to be about a woman that opens up her house to visitors to live in temporarily, so that way they can provide for her mother who is sick. And this is all about like the sisters that are trying to do this together. And it seems that there are scars on one of the sisters. I don't really know much about the story, so let's find out. This is the first book of a series, by the way, and the other ones are set in like winter, so I think we'll wait to read the second book. The Cricket War. This is supposed to be about a refugee from Vietnam, and he is so in love with the game of cricket. This is a middle grade book, and I just think this will be lovely to read. I read a lot of books about people that were on the boats that were refugees from Vietnam going to different places after the war. So I'm just curious what this will be like. And apparently this child ends up going to Canada. An Appalachian summer, or Appalachian. We say Appalachia here, but I found out it's Appalachia. So an Appalachian summer. This is set in 1933, and it's supposed to be about a woman that decides to go into the Appalachian Mountains to be a nurse. I figure, you know, I live in New Jersey. It has the Appalachian Mountains, and this is set more south. It would be lovely to learn about and see what happens. I forgot to add a book to this. I literally skipped over it when I was going through my list, and I had it on the list, and I was so annoyed when I was editing this video, and I went, why is this book not on here? So here we go. A Gift from the Sea. This was written in the 50s, and it's like a memoir, and it's about just relationships that you have with people between marriage and different forms, friendships. The author spent summers in Maine on the shore, and I love going to Maine in the summertime. Now from that, I'm going to count how many books are on my to read list. So yes, there are 22 or 23 books on this list, and I'm going to read them all. Can I do it? My spring list was 12 books, and I did that, plus I read loads more. So can I do it? It's a challenge, guys. This is scary. I can do it. Yeah. Well, there we have it, guys. Whew, we did it. We went through this list. That was long. I want to know what you are going to read this summer. Tell me your list. This is an exciting thing. I really, really look forward to it. And summertime is actually the most chill that I become. I go to the lake, I hang out, and do I do a lot of things outside? Yes, but I feel I'm just more relaxed and more chill. So I do read a lot in the summer, but not as much probably as in the winter. So that's the challenge here. Will I read as much as I did in the colder seasons? Yeah, we'll find out. So have a wonderful time. Happy reading.